it's hard to flip that switch and turn off the work side when you have to go help do something and you're working at home and it's not a 9 to 5 and you don't have a clock and people, it's hard. Family members don't always see it as that. They think you're always available to take them and do this and do that, and you're not. So giving myself some grace, but at the same time trying to jump in and be the parent as much as possible.
So welcome back to the Business Behind Your Business podcast, podcast for business owners everywhere. And look, we've been, I won't say we've been avoiding the topic, but it's a topic that we've sort of stepped around, and it's a topic that's very real to most small and medium business owners. So many businesses are owned as small, medium businesses, but there's a common trait in there, in that many of those business owners are actually also parenting. Probably not going to talk about balancing the parenting act, but we're going to look at how you actually can be a successful entrepreneur and a successful parent at the same time. How can you align the values of those two goals? What are some of the strategies that you can use to manage your time more effectively, and perhaps the expectations that both worlds will have of you, and why imperfection might be something you need to embrace and become a strength. Now, our guest today, he has a different take on business, and it was absolute pleasure when he offered to talk to us about our topic today, which is the whole idea of parenting and entrepreneurship, and that you can be great at both. So today we're joined by Dan Peterson. He's the founder of Flip Switch Social Media, which is a nationally recognized digital marketing agency helping small to mid-sized business grow through social media. But Dan's story is going far beyond business. He's a former touring musician, a top performing sales leader, and a proud father of 3 daughters. Over 25 years of entrepreneurial experience and a family legacy of business ownership. So Dan's got a unique perspective to bring to us today on what it really means to build a business and have a life that you love. And whether he's coaching clients, performing his acoustic rock, or helping his kids with homework, or going to the beach and spending time with the kids and getting sunburned, his mission is the same: lead with gratitude, perspective, and purpose. And Dan, welcome to the Business Behind Your Business.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was a very kind intro there, so I appreciate that. Makes me sound older than I am, maybe. I don't know. That's a lot of stuff.
Well, look, I as a father of 4 kids who really appreciate classic rock, you're certainly not not old. You're well within the right vintage, and appreciate keeping rock alive, or the classic rock alive. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about today, though, Dan. Look, as we mentioned, you've got quite a full plate. You're running a business. You're a performing musician. You've got 3 daughters. How do you balance, or how do you define balance between parenting and being an entrepreneur?
I don't think I will ever, in my mind, ever get it right. I think that it's an ongoing process, and it's something that I think is difficult for, I know, myself and a lot of people out there. I think the one thing that I've had to do progressively over the last 13 years as of this recording, of when I started the company back in 2012, the agency, and I think it's very much a balance between working at home and having those parental duties and the husband-wife duties, and then having an entire side of the company that is out and about, running around. I'm going to meetings, I'm doing all that, I'm coming in, I'm leaving, and trying to do that while at the same time driving kids to softball practice, or picking one up from gymnastics, or taking her over to a friend's house. And doing all of it with a bit of grace is the only way that I've found that kind of works. Not beating myself up too bad if I don't do it, but I'll say this: I have not done a good job at all until maybe the last couple of years, and I'm still struggling with it, because it's hard to flip that switch and turn off the work side when you have to go help do something, and you're working at home and it's not a 9 to 5, and you don't have a clock, and people, it's hard. Family members don't always see it as that. They think you're always available to take them and do this and do that, and you're not. So giving myself some grace, but at the same time trying to jump in and be the parent as much as possible. And again, I have not done a good job until I feel recently, and I'm still struggling. So not beating myself up is one of the keys.
Look, I don't think you're alone there, because I think there's a lot of, I guess, external pressure or I guess expectation on parents as business owners to run that successful business, but also be the perfect parent. And it's something that I as well have struggled with quite a lot, in terms of thinking, well, hang on, while I'm off coaching my kids' cricket teams, that okay, what's going on in my business? Why am I not there? And what do my staff think that I'm not actually available for them and my clients? But if I'm for my clients and running my business, but I'm not available for my kids, what am I missing out on? And what does that mean for me as a parent? I don't know that I mentioned that word balance earlier on, and I don't think that's really the right way to describe it. I think
Right.
I think you mentioned a word which I think is better, is being understanding, I guess, that imperfection, but understanding grace and giving giving yourself permission to not get it right.
Yeah, that's the key, at least in my world and the way that I've had to try to finagle this and get better at it. But I think there's also two sides of business ownership that come into play that I forget about sometimes too. But at least when I talk about this with people, there's the work from home type of entrepreneur, and then there's the 9 to 5, and no entrepreneur's 9 to 5, but I mean the kind that goes to maybe a brick and mortar business, and they work there during business hours. Maybe they're there an hour or two early and stay an hour or two late. But at some point the business turns off, and then they come home or they do whatever. That's not really how it's been for me. Even when I had physical offices to go to, I rarely went to them. I got rid of those a few years ago, and now I am 100% working from home because it's a virtual world and I run a digital agency, and there's no reason for me to have a physical office. Everybody that works for me are remote. And so I don't have that ability to leave one building and come home to my building being my home and turn that page, if that makes sense. For me, especially because I enjoy what I do, I find myself wanting to work sometimes when I shouldn't, if that makes sense, and continuing in it. And on top of that, maybe this is because I'm a musician, I have that night owl kind of persona. So I get more done in the evening and nighttime hours, and that's when my brain tends to work the best and I can really focus. Whereas I'm not a morning person, so getting up and getting going at like 5 or 6 in the morning is very difficult. My whole day, I could run the whole company at night and just be perfectly happy. So finding that mix between being home, but making sure my kids, and this was especially difficult as when they were younger, making sure they realize like, hey, dad's working. I'm home, but I'm working. And that's hard, I think, for younger kids especially to realize, because you're not gone like all the neighbor dads that get up and leave in the morning and come home in the evening. So yeah, I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer. And I certainly want to make this point too. Anything I say on these types of things, I want to make sure that it doesn't come across as preachy or condescending or anything of that nature, because I am the worst culprit of half this stuff. And I think if I'm talking about anything here, I'm really talking about what not to do based on what I have done and I'm currently still working through and trying to do better at. So I don't even pretend to tell people how to parent, and I certainly don't tell people how to do anything that I'm doing right. It's more about avoiding what I do that's wrong.
Mm. Look, I think one of the other things that we often forget is that we think we might have a good strategy in place, but there's always something happens. So there's always a curveball or a change in, I guess, well, kids grow up. They don't always stay the same. So what was an important thing for them at that point, there's something different happens. And for them, when a disaster strikes in their world, it's very hard to say, look, you have to wait till I finish this meeting or this task before I deal with you. They're needing some immediate, I guess, guidance, resolution, sympathy at times.
Consoling.
Yes. So I think it's hard. And I think I just want to come back to this because you mentioned that idea of giving yourself permission to be imperfect. I think, and I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are as well, and your experience is that we are often too harsh on ourselves as business owners and parents at the same time.
Oh, very much so, I think. And I'm speaking obviously as a dad, and I've been the primary breadwinner for the majority of our time as parents. My wife just started working outside of the home in the last few years, and she loves what she does, and she's great at it. But she had the ability and the blessing of being able to be a stay-at-home mom, which was both of our goal, I think, all along for at least the early years of raising kids. Right now, as of the time we're talking in 2025, I have two high schoolers, or the second one's going into high school this year, so I'll have two high schoolers, and I have one. My third daughter's in second grade, going into second grade. So we've been blessed to be able to have her at home, my wife, I mean, and be able to raise the kids and take care of them and all of that. But now that she's working outside the home, it's even more, not difficult in a bad way, but more difficult in a strategic, tactical way of trying to figure out how we operate our schedules. And right now it's summer, and so it's a different calendar. Right now the kids don't have school to go to, so now we have to make sure we're driving them wherever they go. And to your point, I've got three daughters, two of which are going to be in high school. They are, let's just say, busy with friends, seems like nonstop. So I feel like I'm the Uber driver and the taxi driver all the time. And it does get frustrating. It gets under my nerves, but I have to remember that that's that phase. That's where they're at in life. And, I will miss that at some point. And I don't want to look back, and this is where I'm bad at. It's like, if you want to talk about something not to do, here's a tip on what not to do. Don't resent that, and don't look at it like it's a hassle, because I'm still doing it every day. Every day I'm like, man, darn it, I got to take these kids somewhere. Like, I'm busy. I've got to stop doing that. I've got to put it away, because in a few years I won't have that issue anymore, and I'm going to miss it. And so yeah, it's a balance, but it's I don't know. I don't know if that answers that question or not. I get a little choked up sometimes when I'm talking about it, because I'm looking into the crystal ball, and I realize, like, hey, I've got to stop that. I've got to start paying attention more, and make sure I enjoy driving them places. Don't look at it like a chore.
Yeah, look, I think you're not alone. I think it's a conversation, or I guess a realization that a lot of us feel that we can't make, because the expectations, honestly, images that are being pushed to us from all the successful entrepreneurs, or dare I say mumpreneurs, and the go-getters, and for us to think that, spending time with our children at this time, being there for them, meeting that need, it is a moment in time, but you can't go back and get that moment again.
Right.
So I also think that, one of the reasons I do run a business is because I can spend the time with my family. But sometimes I forget that. I'm there to provide the business so that we can have those family moments, those experiences together that we can never replace. But
Right.
there's always that trap to think, I need to be spending more time in my business. I need to be doing this project in my business. I don't have time to spend with my kids at this time. But
Yeah, and yeah.
it's a challenge.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just wanted to say, I think that comes from a good-hearted place, right? Like, we want to provide, we want to take care of them. That's kind of what I was saying before my wife started working outside the home a few years ago. The weight of that, of all the financial burden of the family, is on my shoulders. Now I still feel that way now, even though she's working. But it's just that weight, combined with time management, combined with trying to not regret anything, while at the exact same time regretting almost daily something or many things. It's just a complete brain twister, and that's why I say there is no right or wrong answer to it. That's more about doing the best you can as you go and trying to get better the whole time. Lord willing, you come out the other side and your kids don't hate you and your wife still loves you and you're still making money and everything's golden. But man, it's a tough one. And I think I talk about this subject for this purpose. I think I talk about it to try to help the 20s and 30 somethings that are coming up. If they want to run businesses, it's not all it's cracked up to be. There's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of things that you've got to work around besides just the business itself. The family part of it is way more difficult than running the business, in my opinion. Business is easy compared to this.
Mm. So you've been involved with business or running businesses for 25 years. And I think before we started recording, we mentioned that the whole view of what it is to be an entrepreneur or a founder or the exciting terms has really changed, particularly in the last 10 years. And I know that Australia was probably, following behind in terms of, I guess, lifting entrepreneurship up to a status where it wasn't looked down upon. It used to be that you go and get a paid job. Don't go and start a business because we don't want to encourage that. But now we're very much about everybody can start a business. Is that making it harder for us to try and, I guess, balance, or I hate using the word balance, but be the best that we can as a business owner and a parent?
Oh, I think so. I think that entrepreneurialism in the last 10 to 15 years has been put on this pedestal where, I like that. I think that it's very good for kids and society in general to push that, because too much of the standard status quo education that goes on, especially here in America, is just based around reading, writing, and arithmetic type of thing, and doesn't encourage business ownership, doesn't talk about taxes, doesn't talk about your credit score or buying a home or any of the other things that you really are going to need in life. Not calculus, because who uses that? Hardly, right? It's more about the stuff that you're going to use on a daily basis. So I like that they put it on a pedestal in that regard. But to the point of this conversation, it's very much not talked about, the difficulties that go into it from the personal side. And the irony of that is now they're talking about mental health struggles all the time with people. And that's a big topic, right? Everybody's talking about mental health. And I think that we could, I'm not going to go off on a tangent here, but I think that we could, and we do, give people a lot of excuses when we talk about mental health. And I think that people take it and use it as a way to basically just get out of doing some things, becoming lazy and all of that. Because, for example, my kids, they go to school, they get X amount of mental health days. Well, obviously I didn't have that growing up. You probably didn't have that growing up. I don't know, maybe you did. But they don't have to do anything really to get a mental health day. I just feel a certain way, I'm going to go home. Well, yes, there's the opportunity to abuse that, but at the same time, there needs to be a little bit of stick-to-itiveness and, being able to push through and tackle things and not just throwing the towel at every second. And so we're seeing that a lot. And so I think these conversations, to the point you made about entrepreneurialism being put on a pedestal, I think that it's good in that regard, but I think that it makes it look like it's easier than it is. And I think that we're raising kids in a way that when you're running a company, you can't throw the towel and you don't get a mental health day. You don't get that, right? Like that's not how real world business life works. So I think we're borderline going a direction sometimes where we're teaching kids that entrepreneurialism is this thing where, I'm going to start a company and I can do whatever I want, or I can start a company because of X, Y, Z. And in reality, like I said a second ago, it's harder to do that than it is to almost do anything, which is why most businesses fail, and you've got all those stats. But I'm glad it's put on a pedestal. I think that it dangerously sometimes talked about as the new rock star persona. And ironically, as a guy that plays guitar who's not a rock star, I just think that it's kind of funny to watch that change in the last 10 or 15 years. But we got to be careful because it's not easy. And if we're teaching kids that, then we're just setting them up for failure.
Hmm. So obviously, you have found some strategies that work because you've been doing this for 25 years, and I think 13 of those as a parent. Um, you've come up with some strategies that work. Are there any of those that you think would be good to share with our audience today?
Well, two sides to this question. And let me just preface this by saying, so 25 years of either managing, operating, running, or owning businesses. So I haven't owned businesses that whole 25 years. I want to make sure that the audience knows that. I've owned and operated companies for the past 18, 17 years, something like that, between the business I owned before FlipSwitch, which is my digital agency, and now FlipSwitch I've had for 13 years. But two sides to that question there. There's one where I talk about this on shows sometimes where you fail your way up or fail your way to success, that type of mentality. I think that it's important for younger entrepreneurs, especially, to realize like you're going to fail a lot and it's okay. And this ties in with what I was saying a minute ago about the mental health thing. Don't get me wrong. There is a big need for mental health discussions globally, especially with social media and all the stuff going on. There's a need for that. I just don't want to see it be a catch-all and an excuse for people to just say it's mental health. So that being said, I think that teaching younger entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that failure is going to happen and it's okay. And sometimes it's the best thing that could happen because it makes you pivot or it makes you change some kind of direction or realize this or see that a different way. And that's what you need to be able to operate any kind of business. I don't care what it is. On the personal side, the family side, I think that it's important to try to take, I guess, what I've done wrong for all these years and still struggle with, and try to nip that in the bud early. And what I mean by that is pay attention to your family more. Make mental notes. I tell new parents this all the time. Make mental notes of every little thing that your kid does because you will forget it. And even though you might have some of it on camera, it's not the same. And I've forgotten so many things over the years because I didn't make those mental notes. So just being more present and not waiting for somebody like me to, or don't be like me where you're 10, 15, 20 years down the road wishing that you had done X, Y, Z in the early days. So my tip is do it now. Start finding that balance, structure your time accordingly. And on a side note, AI is up and coming. AI is taking over everything. And there's going to be a lot of ability for business owners to find time now that they didn't have before. And I think that's an awesome thing. And I think that it's going to spoil people a little bit because there's going to be some of the hard work and stuff that they're not going to have to do anymore. It's going to just be all these mundane, menial tasks are going to be done with a click of a button. So I think that there's some benefit there too, where people can use AI and find that extra time, which is something you and I couldn't do. I'm doing it now, but I didn't have it for those early years. So yeah, I don't know if I have like a list of tips, but I can tell you this: if there's one of them, it's just pay attention and listen and be present, and the business will be okay. The business will run. You don't have to be there every second, no matter what business you're in or what it is.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of tools available to us now that weren't available 10, 15, even 20 years ago for business owners to free up time. And I guess that the choice is, what do we do with that extra time?
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I think business owners jump in, right? I think business owners don't know what to do. I think that's a great point, Paul. I think business owners even if they get extra time, like I know this is true for me. To my point about working at night, I get that time at night, I should be done, right? I should pull the plug, check out, and instead, because I'm so tuned in around that time of day for whatever reason, there's probably some science behind it. but for whatever it is, I really am productive at that time. So I need to make sure that I'm telling myself like, hey, you got to pull this plug. You got to take the time that you're given with because of AI or whatever, this extra time, and reinvest that back into the family versus investing it back into the business. But sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. I'm glad that you did, because that was a really good point. Yeah, I think what we use with our time. I often interview a new client for my business, and one of the first questions I ask them is, "Why did you start your business? What were the things you were trying to achieve?" And what often comes up is, "I want to spend more time with my family. I want to be going on holidays. I want to be able to provide for them." And then when we look at the business 1, 2, 3 years down the track, or even longer, it looks nothing like that. They're not spending time with their family. They haven't had a holiday for 3 or 4 years. The business is struggling financially, but working harder in the business doesn't seem to be doing it. So we need to come back to, well, why did you have that business? And or why did you set up the business? Because you're there for the people that matter most in you, but your business is not generating that. So if that's the issue you're facing, where you are struggling because the business needs you more, but you're not spending time with family, well, maybe you need to re-engineer the way your business works. Use the AI tools that we just mentioned, and use that to free up time, not to do more business, but to spend spend those moments with your family.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's one thing to remember why you started a business. I started Flip Switch as a need for small business owners. I come from a small business background. All parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, they are all entrepreneurs. And I know the struggles of running, I saw it growing up, running those businesses. And when I had the ability to start Flip Switch, it was done to help, from a marketing perspective, help small businesses. And now it's expanded, and we work with everything from mom and pop to Fortune 500. But at the time, it was for that. And I still carry that as the reason. Well, that's okay. That's the reason for that, that I started Flip Switch. But what are the sub reasons? The first one being time. You propose time with family, time to do what you want because you're the boss. Now, this is actually one area that I've done pretty well in, and probably to the detriment of the business at times, but I've done a pretty good job of taking the vacations or the holidays and going, However, I don't do it at the micro level when I'm here in my family room and I should be taking that little hour holiday, quote unquote holiday with my kids to go do whatever it is. That's when I'm failing. That's when I need to pull that plug and re-engage with them. So it's an interesting question, but I think that kind of sums it up from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I think a couple of key things that have come out for me is, as a business owner and a parent, you're not always going to get it right. And I think giving yourself permission to be imperfect, stop beating yourself up when you don't get it right, but have a think about it. What's important to you? Make sure you capture those moments that are, they're going to live with you forever. But if you miss them, you've missed them forever. Take advantage of those top moments as they occur. And it could be just those micro moments that Dan mentioned, that spending those micro moments, because I think some of the best memories I've got are those impromptu small moments, not the big things that I sort of planned and hoped would be memorable, but it's those small memorable moments that just occur sometimes spontaneously. Latch onto those. But I think, remembering why you do what you do. You can be successful as an entrepreneur and a parent at the same time, but sometimes it's about learning what works. And I think this has come out really clearly from what Dan said, is what works for you in the time that you're in. And that may change from time to time. You've got to be adaptable, I think. So, Dan, was there anything else you want to leave our audience with today?
Yeah, I would say you could sum it all up with one word, and that's grace. You have to give yourself some grace as a parent. Nobody does this right. I mean, people do it. Some of them do it really close, but nobody's perfect, right? I mean, I'm hoping that someday, whether I'm still alive or I'm dead and gone, my kids can look back and be like, hey, dad did that. Was working hard like that and doing all of that for the family. He wasn't doing it because he didn't want to be with us or hang out with us or whatever. And I'm probably a little bit hard on myself. I mean, I'm pretty active in my kids' lives. I'm taking them, I help my 6-year-old softball team and all, like, it's not like I'm hiding away in a closet, whacking away at my computer and leaving them out to dry. That's not what's going on. But I know personally that I could always have a better attitude about it. And I think that's the difference is I don't have a good, in my mind, and probably sometimes my wife's mind, I don't have a good attitude, right? Back to my earlier point of don't complain about it because someday you're going to want to be able to go pick up those kids and do that. So giving myself some grace and trying to just improve and not beat myself up too much is what I try to do. And that's the one thing, no matter what type of parent you are, I think the one thing that we could all do a little bit better is give ourselves a little bit of grace and just understand that it's all going to be okay. In the end, it'll all be okay.
Well, Dan, that's a huge thank you, Dan Peterson, reminding us that success is not just about scaling your business and being hugely profitable. It's also about showing up for the people that matter the most to you. And look, if you're looking for support with your business or marketing, please check out Dan's business. Go to flipswitchsocialmedia.com to connect with Dan and his team. I guess a business owner with a purpose and a passion, and here to help your business achieve some of that balance as well, and be successful for the people that matter the most to you. Look, it's been an interesting conversation, one that we've skirted around for many years, but reality, parents and entrepreneurs, they go together. You are the same, and even though you're an entrepreneur, you are still a parent. How do we manage it? That's been something that Dan's really helped us unpack today. And if you know another business owner that could really benefit from hearing this message and also hearing the message that they don't need to be perfect and should view this whole situation with a bit of grace, then please share that with them on any podcast platform or on the businessbehindyourbusiness.com website. And we'll be sharing links to any of the resources we've talked about today in the show notes for you to look at later. So Dan, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed our time together. And thank you for sharing with us on such an important topic.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. We could talk all day on this topic, but thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.